One of my most difficult ministry experiences happened when I was ministering in Alert Bay. One evening, I was sitting with my family and I received a text from one of my friends who said, "Get to the hospital, I need you." So naturally, I get up and get to my car and go, and I assume that somebody had passed away very suddenly. And when I get to the hospital, my friend's outside and he's seething with anger. And normally he's exceptionally unflappable. And I was quite concerned, and I asked him what was going on, and he said, "Come with me." And he led me inside to the hospital, and members of his family were there, and some of his elders were there. And we sat down with them, and they let me know that one of my friend's younger cousins had been sexually assaulted. And they wanted me to say a prayer and just say a few words and just sit with them while this is going on. And I proceed to do so. But while we were visiting, the tension in the room continued to rise, and I was quite concerned about this. And my friend suddenly stood up and started walking down the hallway. And I thought, okay, well, maybe he's going to go check to see with the nurses or to see if how his cousin is doing. So I get up to go with him. And he stops in the middle of the hall and he looks at me and he says, "I need you to stop me." I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "They're down there and I don't know what I'm going to do." And I asked him to explain. The perpetrator's family was at the other end of the hallway, unbeknownst to me until that moment. And so I gave my friend a hug and I told him go sit with his family and I'd go visit with the other family to ensure that to keep the peace. So he went back with his family and I walked down the hallway. And this hallway isn't very long. We're talking maybe 100 meters, if that. And I sit with the family and they knew me very well as well. And they're dealing with their sorrow and their grief about the whole situation. And they asked me to pray and say a few words to them and just be a presence with them as well. So the vast majority of the evening, I was walking down the hallway back and forth between the families, not only trying to keep the peace, but also to be a pastoral loving presence to two very different family situations for the same event. And I learned from this, what I learned from this, or reiterated to me, was that the love of Jesus Christ calls us, every single one of us, not just myself, to be that loving presence, to be what I like to say is an ambassador for Jesus Christ by our presence and our words. I couldn't, in all honesty, I couldn't do anything less, regardless of how I felt about the situation or what I thought, because both families needed a different reflection of that love. They needed a different reflection of the peace that Christ can bring. And as the night went on, the young woman's family was released to her family after the nurses and the RCMP were finished taking her statement. And they took her home. And they all thanked me for being there with them and just showing them love. And then the perpetrator was released into the care of the RCMP. And their family thanked me very much for keeping the peace. And they asked me how to show their family regret for a terrible situation. I just said, just continue to love as Christ has loved all of us, because that is what we're called to do every moment, every situation, to be that witness for Jesus Christ, both in thought, in word, and in deed.